The Chiefs drop another one, a big one on Sunday to the Houston Texans. Can't get quite past that defense. EDJ is back. We're going to be breaking down the game with the Texans, talking a little bit about the Chargers, a little NFL, a little college football, but we got a lot to talk about this Texans game. EDJ, welcome back to the show.
Well, I wish it was for a more celebratory reason, but it's not, unfortunately. Well, thank you for having me back, but as you can tell, apparently the Chiefs put me under the weather, so, it is what it is, but, a real bummer that we'll have to get into in just a quick moment, but a lot of head scratching and a lot of, that's interesting, so let's get into it.
Let's get right into it. So let's talk about this game. And I don't know exactly where you want to start, but I feel like the turning point of the game was obviously the 4th and 3 that the Chiefs were not able to capitalize on. Gave the Texans the ball in their own territory, and there's multiple ways I feel about this because it was a head scratcher from the standpoint of where they were at on the field. But the play calling has been an issue all year long, and we saw it rear its ugly head in the biggest moment of the season. Because, honestly, I don't 100% mind them going for it, although me and E were at the game, and we both said the same thing. Like, what are they doing? The offense staying on the field? Maybe they're trying to draw them off sides. Okay, I get it. And then they ran the play, and it was like, you chose to run that play right there. I mean, Andy after the game said that they ran it a couple of weeks ago. There was the completion with Wiley, and I haven't been watching the film as good as I have in previous years this year with a whole lot of life going on. But I don't know, man. From being in the stands and being able to watch it from, that kind of standpoint of an all-22, it did not look like a good play. Although Hollywood was wide open in the flat if Pat would have looked to his right. So I think kind of right before we started this, we talked about who's really to blame and things like that. But what's your take on the going for it on 4th and 3 in your own territory?
Well, it didn't make any sense to me. Especially early in the game when you waved Patrick off on a 4th and 1 on the Texans side of the field. It just didn't make a lick of sense to me whatsoever. So it's okay to go for it on 4th and 3 in your own territory, but it's not in theirs on 4th and 1. I think Andy was kind of looking for anything at that point. I saw what you saw. Hollywood Brown was open in the flat, but that Texans defensive line pressure, it was coming. And they had a lot of success once Morris was hurt on the very first play of the game. 120 Morris was hurt on the first play of the game. I said, I already know where this is going. So, that whole game was kind of and I think what summed it up, and I was talking to my pal Joe, and Joe is, when Butker claimed it off the typewriter, I said, yep, that about sums it up.
Yeah.
That about sums it up to everybody. So, it is what it is, but as to who to blame, I don't know. There's a couple of people, obviously, whoever is teaching this team how to catch the ball needs to be let go. I mean, we've talked about that a couple of years ago. Andy's play calling or whoever's calling the plays, during this game, that's inexcusable. A lot of people want to wake up and point the finger at Patrick, and sure, he's throwing the ball, so he deserves some of it. But if you're playing with 3 backup linemen, I guess 4, because a guy who never played in the NFL before was your right tackle or
left tackle. Yeah, technically 3 because Wanye got hurt on the first play, so right. You went to a 3rd string left tackle.
Yeah, and a guy who had not played in a couple years at all in the NFL. So, and granted, he did fine. But,
Agreed.
At the end of the day, there's so much more to point towards than, well, this is Patrick's fault. Did he throw the ball? Yes. Did he make bad choices? Yes. But if you look at the schemes and you look at the people dropping the ball and you look at when they dropped the ball, how they dropped the ball, and what was the cause of them dropping the ball. On that fourth down, Patrick couldn't have handed it to Rasheed any better.
Yeah.
It's in his hands. And Rasheed makes that catch every day of the week. It's in his hands. Travis, it's in his hands. Throws his hands in the air and the ball gets it. What are you doing? Kareem Hunt, it was a little hot, but did you not know the ball wasn't coming to you?
The play you're talking about, the quick turnaround play, I liked the play actually, but everything was just ramped up. Everybody was moving too fast on that play is what it felt like. Right. The timing was off. Because I remember that play exactly what you're talking about, where Kareem Hunt was the turn around and catch the ball basically. And, I felt like just the timing was way off on that play. But it goes back to exactly what you're saying of like coaching and, how everything's are going inside the facility. And I think that, I don't know, at some point, some type of, I feel like change has to happen this offseason. And I don't know, I'm trying not to come off as like the biggest negative Nelly possible, but at the same time, like listening to, because being at the game, my favorite thing is to, okay, let's obviously let the crowd die out a little bit, get out of there, get to the car, turn on the post game, listen to what everybody's saying. And just the air of what felt like positivity in the locker room. And I get it. Like, this is the most successful team of the decade. They have been able to overcome so much, for so long. Last year, it seemed every week was a struggle that this team had and was overcoming obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. That's not the same team this year. They are not overcoming those things. And to have that Chris Jones coming up saying, hey, we still got a chance to make the playoffs. And, like, do you sincerely feel like you have a chance of making the playoffs after that performance against, I'm not going to discredit the Texans at all because they're a good football team. But, when we're looking at the hierarchy of things, the Texans aren't the first team I think of like, oh, that's a playoff team. They're probably and hopefully going to end up being a playoff team. I do like that Texans team and, just the defense that they've built and C.J. Stroud, he's kind of been up and down. It was in his NFL career so far, but he had a good game on Sunday night, a good enough game. But going back to the 4th and 3 call, you handed them points. At that point, if they punt the ball away, the Texans offense could not move on the Chiefs defense. They were holding them just like the Texans defense was holding the Chiefs offense. You gave the game away right there. But again, like I said, not trying to be too negative, and those guys are all professionals. They've been here before. They know what's needed, what's at stake. But to come out of that and being like, well, there's still a chance. I want to hear guys sounding frustrated right now, not guys like, well, there's still a chance we make the playoffs.
Well, yeah, listen, and here's my thing on Chris Jones. Chris Jones decided to be the old Chris Jones in the second half of the game that he should have been 4 weeks ago. So if anyone's frustrated with anybody's performance, I'd be frustrated with Chris Jones the most. And it was, well, he played lights out. Well, he played lights out in the second half of a game that was kind of out of hand offensively already, and he needed to do that 4 weeks ago. So I don't know what got into him in the second half. Oh, now I need to play well. Well, he needed to play well 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, season's on the line. So, that was the season on Sunday night.
Which it was, but the urgency has been missing all year.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, oh, well, now you decide to have urgency.
Well, even that, I think coming out after the game and the first thing out of your mouth is like, well, there's still a chance. Like, again, exactly to your point, no sense of urgency. Like, well, we still got a chance, so we'll just go out there and play harder next time. Well, you should be playing hard week 1. And, it is funny, even just between me and you's conversation on this podcast of just the regular season is like the preseason for the Chiefs, right? And it's like, that's built up for a few years, and we're to the point where I think that they legitimately believe it. I think that even going back to the Super Bowl, they obviously didn't learn anything from the Super Bowl last year, I don't think, at this point. Because, it's just like the rant that I had last week about, talking about this coaching staff is just holier than thou. At some point, whatever they draw up is going to work because we're Andy Reid and co, and it'll work because we're, geniuses. And so we're going to call the same type of stuff week in, week out. At some point, it's going to work, and at some point, our lucky stars are going to turn around. And, going back to last year, there was a lot of talk. This was the most fraudulent 15-1 team ever. And, a lot of people felt like they got their validation out of the Super Bowl. Well, none of that was really true. But at the same time, to make that point, I mean, yes, there is luck involved in whether it is getting to the Super Bowl, getting a 1 seed, hell, winning a game. You have to have some things go your way through the course of 60 minutes of playing football to get a win. And this year has just been the opposite way for the Chiefs, and they haven't been able to overcome it because in the past, even when the chips haven't fallen their way, they've found out a way to overcome it. This year is just not that year. And yeah, all the drops. I think it was 8 or 9 drops total in the game that the offense had. I mean, you could have convinced me that MVS, Sky Moore, and McCole Hardman were back out there trying to catch passes.
Well, it's funny. Someone said the team that fixed their dropping problem last year is back.
Yeah.
They now lead the league in drops again. So, it's again, I think it's obviously, like you said, a nail on the head. It's some internal problems that the Chiefs need to fix. It's baffling. We used to call this coaching staff the best in the league. But obviously that ain't the case anymore. Just really bad game planning, really terrible timing. But like I said last week, it just seems like who's in charge here? Nobody knows. And I think that's showing more and more each week. Nobody really knows who's in charge of the Chiefs. It doesn't seem like it's Andy. It doesn't seem like it's even Patrick. It's baffling. And I think a lot of people at the end of this year, because the Chiefs are probably going to make the playoffs. Again, that's okay. It's been 10 years since they haven't made the playoffs. They can miss the playoffs 1 year. I know everyone's saying, well, Mahomes will never be the GOAT now. It's like, just go back to your parents' basement. Chill out for a minute.
The argument both ways is ridiculous to me about talking about the GOAT conversation because the people that are like, oh, he's already the GOAT. All right. Hold your horses. Relax. We're like halfway through this career, hopefully. And then on the other side, well, he can never be the GOAT because he lost to Tom Brady, twice, and he, didn't match his division championships. That's one I saw today that the Pats had 11, the Chiefs have 9 in a row. And I was like, well, first of all, that's not even all Patrick Mahomes. Like, that post, showed in turn, how much some people, I mean, it's like the UTEP study. And I know we kind of talked about that, where it's like, a lot of that data doesn't even come from Patrick Mahomes or this team that we're looking at. I mean, that went back to, I think 2015 was what they went back to. I mean, long before Patrick Mahomes was even on the Kansas City Chiefs roster. So, it's just things like that. But either way, I just had to jump in and say, either way, the GOAT talk is ridiculous at this point.
It is, and someone sent me a post of it, and they weren't agreeing with it, but they were sending it to me, and I said, it's funny. Even if the Chiefs don't make the playoffs this year, but they go on to win 3 more at some point, is Patrick not the best of all time? So does he have to win 8 or 7, however many it is, to be the best quarterback of all time in this era? Like, come on. I don't know. It's kind of like the LeBron argument, right? Because I think we did this all the way back in Showmaker Show, and you know how I am. I'm Jordan all the way, and I don't think anyone could come close to him ever. I told Randy, I said, fine, if LeBron wins 5, so I think he won 3 at the time, well, maybe 4. I said, if LeBron wins 5, I will concede and call him the GOAT because of the era he's playing in. Mahomes' era, and everyone was, well, Brady won 2 Super Bowls in Mahomes' era. Well, hold on. Okay, he did. I'm sorry. He won a Super Bowl in Mahomes' era. He did. But Did you also see his receiver core? Did you also see his defense? I mean, he went to a situation that just needed a quarterback. Right? Let's call it what it is. So the era which Patrick is playing in is vastly different than towards the end of Tom's career. You know what I mean? You have Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, uh, even Herbert. We'll talk about the Eagles Chargers game in a minute, but and Herbert's in hot water. We'll talk about that too. But Herbert's a dog. I mean, you've seen him play with a broken rib against us, and he threw a 50-yard ball that's still to this day one of the best balls I've ever seen in my life. Played the other night with a broken hand. I just feel like this era of quarterbacks is completely different. And I'm not saying it's better, but it's just different. I mean, it's not like the Mannings and Roethlisbergers and the Rodgers and the Favres. That's a different era. And Brady kind of came up in that era, but then towards the end of his career transitioned to the other. I don't think he transitioned. He was just the end of that Manning era. So, to me, if Patrick wins three more, I don't see any argument left that would not call him the best of all time. But he's got to do it. If he doesn't do it, then he's a little bit better than Peyton Manning. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No, I agree. And just to not to get too far into this debate or anything, but Tom Brady also never won a Super Bowl without a top 10 defense. And Mahomes has already done that. So I'm just saying. I'm not saying he's the GOAT, but we're we're looking at a guy that is primed to be the GOAT. And that's okay. It's all right. Like, we can say that without saying, hey, he's the GOAT. Obviously Tom Brady's the GOAT. And is until further notice. But like you said, has to happen first. So either side, I don't understand the argument when it comes to, definitive GOAT talk. Like, let's settle this right now. But anyways, let's get into the numbers and talk about what some guys were doing on either side of the football. There we go. Bring it up for everybody. CJ Stroud, 15 of 31, 203 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He was sacked 3 times, 80.4 ratage. You got Mahomes, 14 of 33, 160 yards, 3 interceptions, no touchdowns. He was sacked twice. 35 yards was the longest. That 53-yard ball, that was amazing by CJ Stroud. Great pass. And then when you look at the ground game, this is another part of the Chiefs that we talked about all year. I mean, we were yelling in the stands. I think into the second quarter. We didn't see Kareem Hunt until like the second quarter. Like, where's Kareem? What are we doing here? Woody Marks, 26 carries, 68 yards. You know how you get around a defense beating you like that? Just keep hammering the run and then go over the top. And I think that's exactly what happened. I can't remember off the top of my head if it was a play action that they got that 50-yard bomb off on, but I feel like it was. And I mean, yeah, that's exactly how you do that. Ogunbowale even got in. Jalen Noel, they threw in a run to, and Nick Chubb got in 1 carry for 3 yards. Then you look at the Chiefs side. Patrick Mahomes, leading rusher, 59 yards on 7 carries. Kareem Hunt, 12 carries for 30 yards. Got in the end zone. Isaiah Pacheco, 9 carries for 30 yards. Brashard Smith, 1 carry, 7 yards. Can we use the rookie? Like, can he carry the ball? Can we just throw the rook in there and let him get some carries?
So on the 1 carry he got, he has 7 yards.
Yeah.
And then they never used him again.
They never used him again. Scrolling down to see, yeah, because they didn't even throw to him. I didn't think they did. They didn't even throw to him in this game.
I don't know. I don't understand it because they were using him a lot past couple of weeks in the pass and run game. Yeah, I don't know. It's baffling to me. What did you see? Because I've heard a lot of people say C.J. Stroud is one of the best games I've ever seen him play. I mean, I don't know about all that,
Who?
but C.J. Stroud, or I've heard people say that's one of the best games C.J. Stroud's ever played. I don't know about all that, but if we're comparing the two quarterbacks in that night's game, then yes, it was a very good game from him. But I felt like CJ was uncomfortable in the second half, the whole second half until the very end.
Yeah.
It just kind of seemed like the best game of his career was because a lot of people have seemed to say that for some reason. And I don't know. I've seen CJ play some pretty good football.
Yeah, I
So,
agree, especially his rookie year. And maybe that's like recency bias because, yeah, he didn't have the greatest sophomore year. He hasn't had the greatest year this year. He's been injured and things like that. But so I don't, I mean, I guess I couldn't say off the top of my head because I can't think to any other CJ Stroud performances off the top of my head that I'm just like, oh, that was his best game, obviously. But I I guess what are you grading it off of? I mean, he did grit it out and show perseverance by, staying around and still, like he didn't give up on the game. Like we were talking about a minute ago, the Texans could not move the ball. That he handed the ball off to Woody Marks 26 times in this game. But he kept churning away and made a couple of big plays. So I do think it was a great game. He gritted it out, and thankfully for the Texans and C.J. Stroud, he doesn't have any receivers handing the ball over to defense when he throws it to him. That was I don't think that I was doing the podcast yet, but that was one thing before Tyreek Hill was no, I think we were still doing the Showbank show. This is way back. This is a way throwback. I was kind of pining for Tyreek Hill to get traded because there's one too many times that he just batted a ball right up to somebody else and it's a pick now all of a sudden, just like we saw with Travis Kelce losing the second game of the season. So not to transition to that yet, but that is coming up that I want to talk about. But no, I wouldn't say, I don't know. Like I said, off the top of my head, I wouldn't say that this is the best game I've ever seen CJ Stroud play, but maybe. I guess if I went back and watched, it's not like I've kept like really close tabs on CJ Stroud over the last couple of years, but he is a guy that I really like out of that draft class from a couple of years ago. And his receiving core, they had their own problems. Nico Collins, 4 catches for 121 yards. That's on 8 targets. Woody Marks, couple of catches. Well, it's Jaden Higgins, 3 for 34. Other than that, Dalton Schultz, 3 for 22. On the Chiefs side, Patrick Mahomes, one target, 1 catch, negative 10 yards. That was quite the play, right? Kareem Hunt, one target, didn't get the catch on it, obviously. We talked about that. Worthy, 3 catches for 55 yards. 8 targets for Rashee Rice, only 4 catches for 34 yards. Probably, if Travis Kelce, if 87 won out there, Rashee Rice is probably the biggest disappointment of the evening. Hollywood Brown, 2 targets, just 1 catch. He did have that 35-yard catch. Tyquan Thornton, able to make a couple catches off 3 targets. Travis Kelce, 5 targets. 5. I need Booker T for this. 5 targets, 5 targets, 5 targets. 1 catch, 8 yards. Game-losing interception comes from his hands. And I got just you're going to love the thumbnail when you see it because it's just the best picture of just like, hey, where's the ball? And then you just see a Texan holding it. Like, when that happened, like, it's moments like that when you're at the game and EDJ, you've been to plenty of games. So if you're listening or watching this, you know exactly what I'm talking about when you're at a game and you're just like, when something happens like that and you're just like, there's no way that just happened. It's like that moment, like you need the replay to, like when you're watching the game on TV, you need the replay to confirm what you just saw. Like you don't get that live at the game, so you just have to sit there and process it until they show it on the big board or the PA announcer finally comes in. Patrick Mahomes intercepted by, I think it was Lassiter. I'm not 100% sure who it was that picked it, and you're just like, wow, that really happened. You're looking around. Is there any hankies anywhere on the field? Like, there's no way this is how this is going down. The equivalent I can give it, just because the season was on the line, we all knew it was on the line. The Chiefs already needed help to make the playoffs. Was the AFC Championship game against the Bengals where they lost, and it was that just terrible interception off Tyreek Hill's hands to pretty much in the season, gave the ball back to Burrow in overtime, and all they needed was a field goal while they were in field goal range. It's like the only thing I can compare it to of just how like gut-wrenching that interception was, to where it was like, oh wow, okay, like I guess like this whole season I've been waiting for this team to prove they're not who they've shown us all year. And it's like one of those moments where it's just like, yeah, man, I should have believed it early on. That this is, but they've done that to us for years now. It feels like we're the Chiefs. I mean, even back to the first Super Bowl, is like, if Pat wasn't down 10, there's no way the Chiefs are winning the game, right? They got to be down by 10 for Pat to be like, okay, let the fire off and let's go. But yeah, man, it was a game. It was a game.
It was a game that, in a lot of ironic ways summed up the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Missed field goals, drop balls, same game, different day.
Yep.
But, there's always next year. Hopefully they get things fixed internally and on the roster. They need some roster flipping. Well, obviously we'll dive into that as the year comes to an end. But yeah, disappointing, but, it's hard to be ungrateful for what we've gotten. So a bummer, but a new outlook on, for the first time in 10 years, a new outlook on a new season and a completely different new season, which is kind of refreshing. It's like, okay, well, now we can go back and be, a new team, that has different goals. Um, so it's a bummer, but everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I mean, at this point, I kind of feel like the team just needs some rest. And we've talked about it plenty over the last year or so, how much football this team has played, how much more football this team has played than everyone else in the league over the last 7 years now. I mean, 7 straight AFC Championship games that'll come to an end. But hey, hats off to the Texans. The Texans played a great football game, and to take nothing away from them because the story of their season, what they started off 0-3, I think, and now they're to shout out to the comments on the last podcast. I got their record wrong. They are 8-5 now. I said they're 6-6 coming in to last week's game, but they were 7-5. Now 8-5 and in a prime position, especially after the injury to Daniel Jones. They're in prime position to at least take over a wild card spot from them because it looks like the Jags may run away with that division here at the end of the year. But
What do you mean you don't have trust in Philip Rivers anymore?
I mean, we'll see if he can shot put the ball in a couple more times into the end zone. I did think it was funny when the NFL posted something about how Phil Rivers just loves football. Like, why is he back? He's back because he's got like what 11, 12, 13 kids. That man has mouths to feed. That's why he's back. No, I'm sure he's made more than enough money to take care of all of them. But that man's got a whole. He could field a whole basketball team with how many kids he's got. So, but I am interested to see that. I didn't believe it at first when I saw something joking about it, and I was like, I got to look this up to actually see. That was in the middle of when I saw Pete Alonso. But I saw it on Twitter of someone making a joke about Phil Rivers. I was like, there's no way he really signed with the Colts, right? And sure enough, yeah. I don't know. That'll be interesting to see. But I think that's a whole new coach, whole new offense since he was even there. Because what they had Matt Ryan, Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones. I don't know. Interesting, but I mean, I believe in that defense. If the Colts can't get DeForest Buckner back, I just believe in the Texans a little bit more because I do believe in C.J. Stroud, but then the Colts, I don't know. Jonathan Taylor's a hell of a football player, so I mean, I definitely don't want to sleep on Jonathan Taylor. I kind of lost my train of thought, but to go back to what I wanted to bring up because I've had a couple of days to think about this now. I'm almost glad I didn't record a Monday podcast, especially by myself because I don't know how far off the rails I would have went at that point, just to be 100% honest. Travis Kelce, 87. How are we feeling about Travis Kelce on this Wednesday evening recording for a Thursday podcast? Because me personally feel like there's too many Chiefs fans that are caping for 87.
I think I'm glad it's probably his last year. And here's the thing. Statistically, he's had a pretty good year. Like 700 yards at this point, 5 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns, something like that. So statistically, for a guy who's probably going to retire next year, it's pretty damn good. But his magic is gone. And I hate to say that, and it seemed like it wasn't at the beginning of the year. But his age is caught up to him. And it's just time to end it. And I think he will at the end of this year. I think you could just tell after that drop. I think he was just wanting to go home. And it's tough when you see a guy who's arguably the best of all time at the position feel that way. But sometimes I think you got to learn the hard way. And I think Travis has figured it out the hard way, and you can tell on his face that he might regret, or he may have regretted coming back this year. And that's tough. You don't want to see, that happen to a guy who has been, like I said, elite, if not the best ever. So it's unfortunate, but if you're going to hold a team accountable, you have to hold, the star accountable. And a lot of this has been on Travis. You don't catch the ball. You were at the game, but I saw zero effort from him in this game. It kind of looked like the Super Bowl effort. I think he's just done. And it's okay to be done. It's okay to be done. But if you're fighting for your life in the playoffs, maybe let Wiley take over. And Noah Gray, who I had a lot of trust in, kind of washed that away the other night. He had 3 balls in his hands that he just flat out dropped. So, the Chiefs have other options at tight end. They're not as good. But if you're that tired, man, don't play. It's okay. We understand that you've been doing this for a long time. It's okay. You don't have to prove anything to it. And I think that's his problem. He still feels like he has to prove something. What more do you have to prove? You're probably going to go down as the best of all time. So just let it be. And you're having a good year statistically. Just let it go, man. It's just, I don't know. And I think that's a problem with a lot of athletes, especially obviously today, Philip Rivers. But it's I think it's just challenging for those guys to let it go. But it's time for him to let it go, and hopefully at the end of this year he says, "I'm done. I'm good."
Yeah, I think you just described every fighter ever that has ever fought in MMA or boxer wise. It's hard to give it up, and I totally get it. I think the Chiefs would have been maybe, this is strong, but maybe better off if Travis Kelce doesn't come back for the season. And I think you put it perfect, because just because I have a take of that Travis Kelce ain't been worth much this year doesn't mean that he's still not one of the greatest tight ends of all time. And I'm not really a believer in I feel like you got to be pretty catastrophic to ruin your legacy. If you put in 10 years of some of the greatest play we've ever seen from a position or player, whatever it may be, it's really hard to be like, oh well, those last 2 years just absolutely ruined his legacy. How? We're gonna throw away 10 years for a couple bad years when and like you said, he hasn't been that bad. At the end of the day, but it's been the drops, it's been the moments, it's been the key moments. And you look at his stats, he's at 727 yards. He's caught 60 passes, but on 80 targets. He's only caught 75% of his passes this season, which overall, let me go down and see if we got that stat on here. I guess it's about on point with where he's been. I don't know what it is about this year. It just feels, and maybe it's just because the Eagles game, obviously Kelce, that is a large part on him, and then same thing with this not Colts, Texans game, where it really feels like that drop is what sealed the deal for Kelce, or for the Chiefs, the Kelce drop. But it's right around 2024. He caught 73.8%. Got to go back to 2023. He caught 80% of his passes. And really, that's the best year he had since 2014, being above 80%. So, he's actually really doing about his average, maybe a little above average for his career, catch percentage-wise. That actually surprised me looking at that. This is the first time I've kind of looked at these stats. But yeah, man, I don't know. It's tough to say whether, well, one, absolutely, Father Time's going to catch up with Saul, right? And it has caught up with him to a point. I do think he can still be valuable on the field, but not as a focal point. And I think that's kind of what's shown this year is that, yeah, your numbers may be kind of similar to what you've been doing, but it's not the same in the regard to, well, we can just call the Kelsey special, run a tight end option over the middle of the field, and Pat will figure out where you're going, and he'll get it to you. And I think that Mahomes has been a little too reliant on him. And I think you make a good point, too, of bringing up Noah Gray. And, past that, you got Wiley, you got Brendan Stool on the practice squad. But, the depth is not looking great for the Chiefs at tight end. I mean, that's something that they're going to have to address this offseason. But it is not the top priority. So, I mean, who knows what we see in that, in the interim. It kind of reminds me of when Tony Gonzalez left and it was like Tony Moyaki for a couple of years, and then we got Travis Kelce. So, I mean, we haven't really, me and you especially, for being around as long as we have, we haven't really seen a situation where the Chiefs didn't have the best or one of the top like 3 to 5 tight ends in the league on the roster. So it is going to be interesting to see where that goes, because how much faith do you have in receivers after a game like this? I mean, and Rashee Rice is the guy that's like, that he should be the number one, right? I mean, and he drops 4 different passes. It's tough. It's tough to come out of this game and feel positive, and like we'll just tie everything together, kind of finish this up. That's why I feel like listening to how everybody's talking in the building, well, there's still a chance. Boy, you watched that game on Sunday night? You were on the sideline for that game? And that's your takeaway? There's still a chance? I mean, hey, I'm all for the optimism, but as of right now, I don't know if I can feel that way. I don't know if I can feel that level of optimism. And, it is fine. Like you said, go back to the point that you made earlier. It's fine. Hey, 7 AFC championship games in a row, 10 straight divisions, or not 10, was it 9 straight division titles in a row? Hey, feel good about yourself. That's okay to end the run, and there's plenty of career to be played for Patrick Mahomes. But at this point, hey, Veach, coaching staff, I can't quite say Andy just yet, but we are, looking at y'all. We're going to be looking at y'all all off season to see what's going on, what's going to happen, and are the Chiefs in a bad place? But we'll get into that as the season continues to roll out and as we move into the off season, obviously, and in the playoffs. But let us know what you guys think in the comments about that performance on Sunday night. Who do you blame more? Who do you put at fault more? Was it the coaching staff? Was it Mahomes? Was it Rashee Rice? Oddly enough, Patrick Mahomes is still 6th in the league after that game in EPA per dropback. Still right up there at the top. So I've seen a lot of talk about Patrick Mahomes and, how this is on him. 3 picks, you only threw for X amount of yards. You got to look a little deeper than that to, it's really not, I feel like, not all on his shoulders.
No, that's people who just watch the game and don't realize what's truly going on.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're not talking to anybody. But if you worked in environments where you have to study the game deeper, there's a lot more going on than Mahomes having a bad game. Trust me.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more to dive in. But like you said, we'll get into that deeper as the year goes along. Maybe something less depressing coming up. Cross my fingers. What else you got, Papa Shro?
Next up, I mean, I don't know how you feel about this. I mean, we're still talking about the same team, but let's talk about these Chargers this weekend. We got a nooner kickoff at Arrowhead, which is, boy, I'm not loving the look of this personally as someone that will be there in attendance. A forecast of 9 degrees Fahrenheit at kickoff. At least the sun will be out. Cross my fingers on that one. The sun will be out, right?
Well, I've been to the coldest game in Chiefs history. Trust me, sun's out doesn't mean a damn thing.
Yeah.
If it's cold at Arrowhead, it's cold. Um, that 60-70-year-old concrete does you no favors. Yeah, watching the Chargers play the other night. First of all, that ball looked like it was made of butter. I don't know what the deal was, but nobody could hold on to the damn ball. There were 7 turnovers in that game. Hey, or no, there was 8 because Hurts threw how many interceptions? 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Which was enjoyable because everyone talks about how good Jalen Hurts is. It's like, not really.
Jalen Hurts. Yeah. No, that you bring that up. Let's talk about that for a split second because Jalen Hurts has a EPA per dropback of plus 0.06. That is, you know who has a better EPA per dropback? Mac Jones has a better EPA per dropback in 2025. Mac Jones has a plus 0.14 EPA per dropback than Jalen Hurts. Bo Nix has a better EPA per dropback. Caleb Williams, CJ Stroud. It's not good.
But Jalen Hurts beat Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. So here's my thing. I'm not a proponent of Jalen Hurts. I think he's a system smoke and mirrors kind of guy. The 2 best games of his career came in both Super Bowls. I'll give him that. But the problem is that I think the Eagles are facing the same problem as the Chiefs are. It's very obvious that they have no idea who they are this year. The team that was running the ball down the throat all game couldn't break one to save their lives this year. They did a little bit against the Chargers, but I think it was only one. I think it was the first 50-plus yard run of the year for Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, and absolutely destroyed my Monday night parlay.
But, that's the damage you did. You don't bet in Missouri now, but, and the other problem with that is that, and I kind of talked about this the other day with somebody else. I said, look at who's good this year. The teams who have not been in the playoffs in a couple of years or have not been in the playoffs consistently. Patriots, Bears, Colts, Jags. And the teams that aren't tired as hell.
Yeah.
The Niners missed playoffs last year, but they've been in the playoffs consistently, but they got a year off. So it's kind of like, well, if you look at the math, it kind of adds up. I think this is the year where you get those bad teams that have good coaches after they get hired. We get the rested young teams that make a hot run. It kind of makes sense. Look what Ben Johnson's doing in Chicago. Look at the hell of a job Variable's doing in New England. It's. I think fatigue is very, very real. So anyway, we're going to get on even longer trail with that one. But going back to the Chargers, I was not impressed. The only thing I was impressed by, we talked about this earlier, was how tough Justin Herbert is.
Yeah.
He played with a broken hand. He's played with broken ribs. I mean, he's a dog. There's no question about that. Did you? Well, no, we got to talk about this. Did you hear that apparently he told a young Eagles fan, or a young Eagles fan asked him for a picture, and Justin Herbert's alleged response was, "Not while you're wearing that fucking shit."
Shout out to Justin Herbert. I think it's
apparently that was his response.
How old was said kid is the real question.
Pretty young, like 8 or 9. So,
maybe a teenager you get away with that, but yeah, young kid, that's kind of.
But there's no video of him saying it. The mom claimed that it was Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert was in the area, but he was with his family in the booth. So who knows if it was actually Justin Herbert. Obviously, it should not have been said no matter who it was.
Right.
But I think that it boils down to the issue, and everyone's like, well, Justin Herbert blew off the reporter after the game. It's like, well, you know he hates that stuff. And those interviews are really annoying. Like, I have yet to be like, boy, I can't wait for the after-game interview.
Right. It's the same questions, the same thing, I get it. We all want a sound bite and a sound clip, but like with Herbert in that situation, I saw somebody post something about that, and I thought, the same thing where I was like, yeah, he wants to go celebrate with his team. He just got a big win over the team that won a Super Bowl last year. Like, let the man go celebrate. Because they put, Justin Herbert makes like $62 million or something, whatever his contract was. And the only thought I had to myself was, and not a penny of that comes from ESPN or Disney or anybody like that. It comes from the Chargers. So what does he owe ESPN a damn interview for?
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I don't know. I think they're stupid. But going back to the actual game, um, I think the Chargers won't have too big of a problem. Their defense is always really good against us. Um, they have Amari Hampton back. I think the run game will slowly start to roll. I got the Chargers by 10. I just, unless the Chiefs just shock me, I think they're kind of packing it up this year, to be honest with you. And in a lot of ways, technically, they probably should because it gets them a better pick. So I'm not going to say they're taking a dive the rest of the year, but don't be surprised if you see the Chiefs lose games that they probably wouldn't in the past. I got the Chargers by 10, probably 28. Well, that would be 10, 28-17. So, somewhere around there, 10 or 11 points.
Okay. I mean, I do kind of like the take to a point. I don't think that many points will be scored in this game. I think the Chiefs' defense is still good enough. Herbert looked absolutely terrible on Monday night, which, like, nothing against him, just because he's coming off of a broken hand where they put a plate and like 3 screws in it, and that was the Monday prior. So he came in on 7 days after having surgery on that hand, had this crazy looking, I don't know, whatever on his hand to protect it. And so I don't think their offense will be all the way back. We've seen the Chiefs' offense. We know what this offense is. It's not very good. It hasn't been great this year. Man, dude, it's been a long time since I predicted a Chiefs loss, which, if they're going to lose, I almost feel like I should still predict a win, just because of over the weekend. It was great, actually. I predicted the fights wrong. I predicted the Chiefs game wrong. And boy, after the fight and the game was over, people just flocked to those shorts that I put out to just tell me how wrong I was. And I was like, yo, keep running it up. We're getting all kinds of views off this. This is great. But no, I'm kind of with you. It is kind of tough because and tough from a standpoint to predict, because I do agree with you of kind of packing it up. And yeah, the draft pick, like, when is the last time the Chiefs have gotten even a draft in the top 20, with their own pick? It's been a while. And so I think that could really help the Chiefs. But also, like, what's the disposition with everybody? Like, based on Sunday night after the game, they all feel like they still got a chance to make the playoffs if they just win out. They could still go 10-7, and which they can. Will that get you a playoff spot this year? Still, yet to be seen, but it does make me feel like maybe, I don't know, because I've felt every week, I've definitely felt like the Chiefs could come out and this will be the week they turn it around. Well, at this point, I mean, we're at week 15. December 14th, are you going to turn it around? Or are you going to turn into a different team than you've showed us to be all year long? I'm kind of with you on, let's see, where do I want to go with this? I'll go 20-14. Chiefs lose by 6, and the Chargers take the win. I don't think the Chargers will score a ton, but their running game does worry me a little bit, although the Chiefs play the run very well for the most part. But if they keep pounding the rock, it feels like eventually you can kind of get to the Chiefs if you really just keep going with it. You'll have your moments at least, especially fresh out of the half. It does feel like fresh out of the half is where the most success comes with other teams against the Chiefs running the football. So I think maybe if they can establish that. How healthy is Herbert going to be? That offensive line looked non-existent against the Eagles. So I feel like almost 20 points feels like a lot. Maybe like a I don't know, go back to the 17-13 prediction I had last week, just Chargers this go around. But we'll say 20-14. I'll stand on it and say the Chargers win by 6 points. At this point, yeah, I would like to see a better draft pick. I don't know. I mean, I get how that sounds, but at the same time, you get two valuable things. One, rest, and two, a better draft pick. But also, let's see more youth. Let's throw Jalen Royals out there maybe a little bit. Let's see more Brashard Smith. Let's see some of these young guys. Let's see Jeffrey Bassa on defense more. Maybe we could actually play Noel Williams again, who was, great early on in the season. Maybe we could see some of these rookies actually get some playing time and some meaningful playing time that they haven't seen all season. So, I don't know, man. It's tough at this point for the Chiefs-Chargers. But I do think that the Chargers, if they continue to run the football, they'll probably get over. Keenan Allen always has something for the Chiefs. It feels like. I mean, even in the first week of the season in Brazil, we saw that. Defensively, for the Chargers, I do think that I think the Chiefs will want to prove themselves coming into this week. Obviously, after how terrible they were last week, but it's hard to think. I mean, I haven't seen the injury report yet this week, but it's hard to think that the Chiefs will miraculously turn it around when you're down 3 offensive linemen.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just feel like the Chargers defense is basically plays the Chiefs about as well as anybody. Especially with those injuries and with the skill on Chargers defense, I think we're going to be in for a long day. But yeah, unfortunately, like you said, I don't think it's unfortunate thinking. I think it's sensible, reasonable thinking. What you said.
Yeah.
It's time to be sensible and reasonable, but not, hopeful. I think it's time to just say, this season's over, but that's okay.
But yeah, absolutely. Just to go to the injury report, I did just pull it up. We've got Trent McDuffie, who's questionable with the leg injury still. Wanya Morris is out, so that means Esapole will be the left tackle. And then Jawan Taylor's still questionable to return on Sunday. So we'll see how that works out. Hopefully McDuffie plays. Because, yeah, if McDuffie doesn't play, it's going to be a rough game for the Kansas City Chiefs there. All right, well, me and EDJ both have the Chargers winning. I think that's the first ever on the Papa Show Knows podcast. I know it's the first time I've predicted the Chiefs to lose on this podcast. So either way, we're calling a spade a spade. This week is what we're doing pretty much, right? I think that's all right. So next up, we do have, I guess depending on how you take it, a little bit less depressing of a thing to talk about, but something that I thought was interesting with, actually, before we transition to college football, any other NFL takes? Because I guess I did have, at this point, I mean, the Rams and the Pats, they're my front runners at the moment. I don't know if you wanted to speak to that or who you got right now, who you think is your front runners.
I think we'll save that because it just seems like the league is changing so much per week. But I do like the Rams. I'll stick by the Rams for sure. AFC, I think, is crapshoot.
Yeah.
So if I were to pick one team, I think the Rams would be the team. I think they have the most complete team. Offensively, they have the best receiver core, hands down. They have the most talented quarterback outside of Mahomes. So yeah, I would say the Rams are the team to beat, even though they don't have the best record. I think they're the most talented and the best coach.
Yeah, no, man, I'm really with you. But I think that your crapshoot assessment is a pretty good one, just because it does feel like we talk about this a lot in the baseball season. Is like you just got to make that good run, and if one team makes a run at it, it's yours for the taking. Like, and I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Josh Allen, brother, if you don't win a ring this year, I'm sorry, Bills Mafia, but we're gonna be ruthless over here.
Yeah, I'm officially out on Josh Allen, and hopefully they are too. I mean,
Yeah,
he can't but bumble this opportunity that's been laid in front of him like this. I mean, that's a huge blunder by the Bills and him and McDermott. I mean, this is their Super Bowl to lose. I feel like if the Patriots
absolutely.
aren't as legit as they seem, we'll put it that way.
And we're gonna find out on
Um,
Sunday because it's the second
that's true.
game.
But we will find out. But if the Bills lose again, which I don't think the Bills are that good anyway, but if
Yeah,
the Bills lose again to the Patriots, one, they're obviously not as good as the Patriots. Two, yeah, you know,
it's
I
looking
mean,
rough. It's looking
yeah.
spooky.
But anyway,
Before we get off the NFL, I do want to get your take on just because we've had many good discussions about this over the years,
mhm.
and this is one thing Ray brought to my attention. Of he thinks that Lamar is still hurt. What do you think about that? I think that there could be something to it because he's playing the worst football that he has ever played. I think in the NFL, or at least it's up there. Maybe other than like his rookie sophomore year, it is not the same Lamar we've seen the last couple of years. And the Ravens do not look good. I mean, they didn't look good early in the season. Honestly, I didn't even expect them to get back to this point where they're contending for the division. But after that loss to Pittsburgh, I mean, it looks bleak in Baltimore.
He could be, but I think the Ravens were desperate and are desperate, because they're aware that the AFC is in anybody's game.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they were trying to get in there, but he could very well still be injured. Um, and I think that's something the Ravens have to look at next year, because if he comes off this injury and he's still struggling,
Yeah.
and you haven't really won anything with them, you kind of got to be cautious with it. It's like, well, he's injured now, he's not playing as well, we still have not won anything. Huh? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of the same as Josh Allen. Well, what do we do?
Yeah.
It's not because Joe Burrow came back the other day and had a hell of a game. He's been out.
Well, and you got to get to that point to figure out what. Like, I guess I get Cincinnati's not paying anybody on defense, but we're to that point where all of these quarterbacks are making astronomical amounts of money. And, we talked about that years ago. There was a focus for a lot of these guys. It's like, hey, you got to win the rings when they're young, when they're on their rookie contract, and got to get it figured out. I mean, we saw the stats about Mahomes when Mahomes finally got paid, about, how many times that we see quarterbacks, once they get paid, they're not able to pay all these other guys, and now all of a sudden it becomes really hard to win. You really got to be thinking about that if you're Buffalo or Baltimore, really, because, I mean, Buffalo ain't got much. When it comes to offensive talent, you got James Cook, who is, in my opinion, probably the second best running back in the league right now. But that receiving core is rough. You still have a couple of really good tight ends in Knox and Kincaid. But at the same time, there's not a lot of help. Lamar's really never had help at receiver. Mark Andrews is in the twilight of his career. It is looking for the taking for a Patriots team, because I don't believe that Denver is as good as they look on paper. And I think we even saw that in the Denver game against the Chiefs at Denver. I mean, obviously the Chiefs lost, but that game was for the taking. I think there's 3 drives in a row the Chiefs had that they could have went up and did not, and Denver finally scored that field goal to win the game. So, I don't know. I don't think that Denver is quite as good as they seem. I could be wrong, but like you said, let's go back to what you said. AFC's a crapshoot. So I got the Pats and the Rams that are my favorites at the moment. All right, kind of an impromptu finish. We got a little bit more to talk about. We'll probably talk about next week on the podcast with EDJ. A little bit about college football and just the placement of like NIL and with the bowl games. Like, are we seeing the death of bowl games right now with Notre Dame and then possibly K-State deciding they don't want to be a part of bowl games this season? Interesting topic. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about that. In that situation, is it an NIL problem? Is it just a I don't know, a college football problem, the playoffs expanding or something to that effect. But either way, I greatly appreciate you if you tuned into the podcast and enjoyed it or this far in. Hit that subscribe button for me. We're up to 532 last time I checked, pushing towards 600. Let's go get that. And this is a place, safe space to just talk ball and throw your comments around. I really appreciate all the engagement over the last week or so that I've gotten returning in some of the shorts that I posted that people have replied to. So I appreciate you guys for that. That's what I do this for, man. I just enjoy talking about whether it's MMA, football, baseball, all of the above. Really enjoy what this channel has kind of grown into. Really appreciate EDJ joining the pod. Like I said, a little impromptu finish, but, life be lifing. Last thing I wanted to say at the time of recording, shout out to our boy Ray. He's been on this pod a couple of times, been on the channel a few times, co-host of the Shrillbank Show. He will be Ray Sr. by the time this podcast drops, so congratulations to my mans. With that being said, that will be it. Let us know in the comments about all your Chiefs takes, how you feel about the season. Obviously got a few games left, 4 games left on the schedule, but it does look like the season is over for the Kansas City Chiefs. Is there any hope left before Sunday? Let me know in the comments below. Until then, it's been your boy Papa Shro signing off for myself and EDJ. We'll see you next week.